Hi guys, hi my lovelies, you're welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, you're welcome. My name is Otsi. I create content on sewing tutorials and headwear. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. In today's video, firstly, I'm going to show you guys on how I cut my fabric before taking it to the embroidery guy's shop to make embroidery design for me. Then secondly, I'm going to show you guys on how to cut and sew exaggerated bubu with puff sleeve. Bubu with exaggerated puff sleeve. So I'm going to be showing you guys two different things. The bubu that is showing right now, I'm going to be showing you guys on how to cut and sew it from start to finish. So if this is what you would love to learn, please sit back, relax and enjoy the tutorial. And if you have not subscribed yet, please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, because I have lots of trendy bubu style coming up and I bet you don't want to miss it. Also remember to hit the notification bell so that whenever I upload a new video, you'll be notified. So without further ado, let's move right to the tutorial. The name of the fabric that I'm using is called raw silk. Raw silk. When you go to the market, tell them you want to buy raw silk. It has different colors and it is very beautiful. As you can see, it has this shining face and it is stretchy. One side is stretchy and the other side is not stretchy. I purchased 4 years. All my bubu I always buy 4 years, except if I want to make a turban cap with it, then I will buy 5 years. Whenever you see me make a bubu tutorial, just know that I used 4 yards. So my fabric has been folded into 4. I'm going to impute my measurements. I'm going to impute neck width 3.5 inches. 3.5 inches for the neck width. Neck depth for the back 1.5 inches. Neck depth for the front 4 inches. I'm going to connect the necklines. Next, from the center back, I'm going to measure 27 inches. 27 inches. At that point, I'm going to measure my sleeve opening. I'm going to measure about 25 inches for the sleeve opening. As you can see, it is wide. Then I'm going to connect that into a straight line. The wider the sleeve opening is, the bigger the puff will be. The smaller it is, the smaller the puff will be. Please note that the wider the sleeve opening, the bigger the puff will be. The smaller the sleeve opening, the smaller the puff will be. Then for the wideness of the body, I'm going to measure 18 inches. I want it to be big on me, so I use 18 inches for the wideness. You can use any measurement of your choice. If you don't want it to be as big as mine, you can add 3 to 4 inches to your hip measurement divided by 4. But the wideness, I use 18 inches, so I'm going to connect it to the 18 inches. I'll connect the sleeve opening to the 18 inches like so. Then I'll rule a straight line from there straight to the hem of the fabric. Then I'm going to curve at that sharp corner. I'm going to curve it. I'm going to curve the sleeve opening to blend to the 18 inches mark, like so. That's about it. So the next thing to do is to cut it out. Please cut only the back neckline first when cutting it. Only the back neckline first. Then after that you can cut the bodies. After cutting, you spread it on the table. You spread it like so. Then the next thing we will do is to cut the front neckline and also cut facing for the neckline. So this is how you will spread it. You arrange the fabric. You take your time to arrange the fabric properly before cutting the front neckline. So I'm going to cut the front neckline. I had to bring my camera closer so that you guys can see it properly. So after cutting the front neckline, the next thing to do, I'm going to take the leftover fabric, I'm going to fold it and use it to cut facing for the neckline. I place the material for the facing underneath it, as you can see, making sure that the folded edge aligns with the folded edge of the bodies. You pin it down. Make sure that it aligns with the folded edge of the bodies. It is very important. You pin it down so that it won't be moving around when you are cutting the neckline. So after you must have arranged everything properly, so you will now trace the neckline. So at the front neckline, I'm going to measure 4 inches downward for my slits in front. I'm going to measure 4 inches downward. So I'm going to slit at the folded edge of the front. I'm going to slit it open and stop at the 4 inches mark. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the facing as well. I'm going to slit it open at the folded edge and stop at the 4 inches mark. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'll remove my pins and also remove the bodies. Then I'll continue with the facing. So this is how the facing looks like. So the next thing to do, I'm going to measure 3 inches round the facing. 3 inches. I'll measure 3 inches round the facing. So at the point where the 4 inches mark stop, I'm going to measure down 3 inches and also measure 2 inches. See the way I curve it. I'll measure 2 inches and curve it like so to join the 2 inches. I hope you guys understand. So the next thing to do, I'm going to cut it out on the mark. So after cutting it out, I'm going to iron interfacing to the facing. I'm going to iron este to the facing. This is how it looks. This is how the bodies look like. This is the neckline, so this is the facing for the neckline. When you use facing to turn your neckline, it makes your work look professional. It gives professional finishing. I always like to use facing to turn my necklines. I have put the fabric aside for now, so what you are seeing now is to show you how I normally cut my fabric before taking it to the embroidery guy shop to make embroidery design for me. I have neatly folded my fabric into 4. What I'm doing right now is to mark my length, which is always 65 inches. What I'm showing you guys right now is how I normally cut my fabric before taking it to the embroidery guy shop to make design for me. It depends on the type of sleeve that I want to create. Depends on the type of style that I want to create. This particular style, I don't use to draft the neckline. It is the embroidery designer that will draft the neckline for me according to the style that I choose. They will be the one to draft the neckline. So what I normally do, I will just impute my measurements. I just measure my hip line, then I'll impute my hip measurements plus the seam allowance I want to add to it. Then I will impute my sleeve opening, then I will connect it like so, just the way I drafted the first one. Let me show you guys this particular style, the one the guy made for me, the one I cut earlier that I took to embroidery guy shop. So this particular style, you guys remember this gown that I showed at the beginning of my video? This is how I cut this style that I'm showing you right now. This is exactly how I cut it before taking it to the embroidery guy shop to make this design for me. Like I said, the guy will be the one to draft the neckline when he's making the design. I don't used to draft the neckline at all. I only cut the shape. I'll leave the neckline untouched. So what I'm showing you right now is how I cut this particular fabric before taking it to the embroidery guy. So if this is the type of sleeve I want, so all I will just do is to cut it out. After drafting it, I'll cut it out, then I'll fold the fabric, go and take it to the embroidery guy shop. But I'm not making this style, I am making the exaggerated puff sleeve. So I'm going to further measure my usual 27 inches, just like the way we drafted the first one. Then for the sleeve opening, I measured about 26 inches for this one. Then the bodies, I measured 18 inches. I minus 2 inches from 18 inches. At the lower part, I measured 16 inches because I just want to try a different thing. One thing about sewing is just giving it a try, different thing. This time around, I want the lower part to be pencil, so I'm minus 2 inches from the 18 inches that I measured at the top for the wideness of the body. For the side slits, what I normally do, I will measure from the shoulder. I will measure about 40 inches and mark. So when I'm cutting, I'm going to notch that 40 inches mark. When I'm sewing the sides, I'm going to stop there. Remember, the sleeve opening, the bigger it is, the bigger the puff will be. The smaller it is, the smaller the puff will be. So that's about it. So the next thing to do, I'm going to cut it out. Whenever I'm making bubu with any design in front, I don't cut the neckline. I'll just draft the bodies, cut the bodies, I'll fold it nicely and take it to the embroidery guy shop. You guys shouldn't worry, I'm going to show us the results of this design when it is finally ready. So this is how I cut it, guys. For those that normally type, please teach us. I don't make the embroidery design, I only cut and give it to the embroidery guy to make design for me. So this is how it looks. The whiteness depends on your preference. This design that I'm showing us right now, I cut it exactly the way I cut the black fabric. So I decided to bring it to show us. I made it for a client, so I decided to bring it to show us the way I cut it. The embroidery guy had already made the design, so I'm going to fold the black on top of it so that you guys can see what I mean. As you can see, I don't usually cut the neckline. So after the embroidery guy had made design on it, so when I bring it home, the thing I normally do is to fold the edge of the fabric, to fold my elastic casing and sew it straight down. Then I'll measure below my elbow and cut the elastic and use it to pass through it. After that, I'll sew the sides, hem the lower part and give it a good press. So that is what I normally do. So for this second style that doesn't have a puff sleeve. So what I normally do is that after the embroidery guy, I've made the design on it. So when I bring it home, I will turn it to the wrong side of the fabric. Then at the edge of the sleeve, I'm going to fold half an inch twice and sew it down. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Afterwards, I will fold the fabric into two. I'll sew the sides. If I want to fix pocket to it, I'll fix pockets. I'll hem the lower parts, then I'll give it a good press. So this is how I normally cut my fabric before taking it to the embroidery design, and after the design, this is how I normally put them together. For those that usually ask me, please teach us, I hope this tutorial is clear enough. So moving on with our main tutorial, I've already ironed interfacing to the facing. I iron edge to it. So I'm going to place the facing on the neckline, making sure it aligns with the neckline. Then with my chalk, I'm going to mark where I'm going to sew. I'm going to mark half an inch round the neckline. So after sewing, I'm going to give it a notch. I'm going to notch the neckline. Then I'll turn it to the wrong side and give it a good press. Please note I place the facing on the right side of the bodice. I've sewn it, so the next thing that I'm doing, I'm giving it a notch. So after notching it round, I'm going to turn the facing to the wrong side of the bodice and I'm going to give it a good press. I've turned the neckline with facing and I've given it a good press, as you can see. Next is to measure my elastic. I'll place the elastic around my arm, below my elbow. Then I'll cut out the measurements that I'll be needing. Then after that, I'll flip the fabric to the wrong side. As you can see, I'll fold in half an inch and 1 inch. I'll sew my elastic casing, then I'll pass the elastic through it. I have passed my elastic through the casing. This is how it looks. As you can see, the puff sleeve is forming already. Please note the 25 inches that I measured for the sleeve opening. Please use it for only raw silk. Don't use it for any other fabric, mostly Mikado fabric. Don't use the sleeve opening measurements of raw silk for Mikado fabric, because the first attempt that I made with raw silk, I used 18 inches for the sleeve opening. It did not give me the exaggerated puff sleeve because of the texture of the fabric. But if it is Mikado fabric that I'm using, that I'm working with, I will use 18 inches for the sleeve opening. 18 inches will give me a nice puff sleeve for Mikado fabric. But for raw silk fabric that I'm working with right now, I noticed that the 18 inches that I normally use for Mikado fabric did not give me what I wanted. So I decided to increase it, and I realized that between 20 to 25 inches is okay with raw silk. So the next thing to do, I'm going to sew the sides. I'm going to start sewing from the sleeve, and I'm going to stop somewhere around 40 inches from the shoulder. I will measure 40 inches and stop there for my side slit. I'll repeat the same thing to the other side. Then I'll show us the next step to take. Let me quickly sew it and show us the next step to take. I've sewn the sides. Another important thing I want to show us is that at that curve part, please make sure that you notch it. It will make the sleeve to relax. Anytime you are sewing a cut together sleeve, the parts of the sleeve that join to the body, make sure you always notch it. It is very important. So the next thing to do is to sew the slits. But before then, I'm going to open up the side seam and give it a good press. After that, I'll sew the edge of the slits. After ironing, I weave the facing and the side. So another thing I want to show us, where my side seam stops, I usually go up with half an inch, then I will notch it. Then after that, I will sew the slits. I will fold in half an inch twice. I'll fold half an inch twice and sew, cross to the other side, fold half an inch twice over there again. Then I'll stitch it straight down. After that, I will hem the lower part and show us the final look. This is the final look, guys. I'm sorry that the video took so long. I just decided to explain in details because I've been receiving requests for this tutorial from different people, so I decided to take time to explain in detail so that you guys will understand each and every step about bubu with exaggerated puff sleeve. This is the final look, guys. As you can see, it is very easy to make. I decided to add brooch to the front to give it another look. This is absolutely optional. You can decide to wear it without the brooch. We've come to an end of today's tutorial. If you find my tutorial helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below if you've not done so. I upload weekly tutorial on my channel. Also remember to click on the notification bell so that whenever I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Until I come your way next, please stay safe and remain blessed. Thanks for watching. Love you all. Bye.